Firstly, could I add my own welcome to all of those who have been acknowledged earlier by Ken, and I thank our special guests who are here tonight for honouring us with your presence, particularly as many of you have travelled some distance to be here. I thank all those responsible for this beautiful celebration tonight, particularly the members of the Clem team, and particularly also Mrs Amy Samet, who Ken mentioned earlier. And I thank the singers and musicians for the beautiful gift of your music. And I invite everyone to thank them for us. Particularly like to thank Mrs Tony Sillis and the staff of your excellent school here, and I thank you very much for the warmth of your hospitality. I'm grateful very much to all of you, the staff of all of our schools who've travelled from the breadth and width of our growing and fantastic diocese to make such a strong statement tonight. And as I stand here looking out, it's a wonderful statement of unity and spirit. My particular thanks to our Bishop, to Bishop Brian, and the members of the clergy for your support tonight. I thank you all very much for being here and for showing that support. And Bishop, you clearly are very much at home in the world of the Catholic school. And I thank you tonight for your obvious connection to and affection for all of those who work within this wonderful ministry of our diocese. We're very grateful to you, and I ask you to join with me in acknowledging our Bishop. In the midst of Catholic Schools Week, I ask you to consider for a moment the reality that 26,000 young people will walk through the gates of our diocesan systemic and congregational schools for nearly 200 days in 2019. Consider for a moment that each one of those 26,000 young people is the very reason why this church is overflowing tonight. Consider for a moment the stories behind the faces of those 26,000 young people. Some of them come ready to change the world. Some come anxious and uncertain. Some come well supported from home. Some come lost and forgotten. Some come well versed in their faith, but some come void of any single experience of a loving God. All, however, have one thing in common. They, this day, this week, this year, come to you. In the very early weeks of this new school year, in order to set our compass for those who work in the Ministry of Education in this diocese, as Catholic educators, we come together to celebrate not just who we are, but in what we believe. And tonight we proclaim that. We believe that the heart of the Catholic school is found in the person of Jesus Christ. We believe in the dignity of each young person that we serve. We believe in an education that celebrates and challenges and values knowledge and wisdom and truth. We believe in a faith that is brave and accountable. We believe in a church that is saddened, humiliated and bruised, but capable of being much better. We believe in dialogue over ill-informed debate. We believe in a sense of mission and of purpose and of compassion. We believe in an option for those who, through no fault of their own, spend their life at the margins. And we acknowledge that the world of our schools is challenged by a society that embraces materialism and cynicism and self-focus, but we believe in a better way. And we believe that for our young people, we carry a very special message, that message that proclaims hope. Recently, Professor of Law at Flinders University, Jerry Redmond, wrote these words. "As a nation, Australia has never been richer," he said. "Those of an older age live in relative comfort, although the gap between the haves and the have-nots continues to grow. Australia's real challenge lies in the minds of the young, whether they be rich or poor. That challenge is the fear of what lies ahead for them, a real, unimagined and genuine lack of hope. Enter then the Catholic school. Enter then each one of you." 6 days ago, during a visit to one of our schools, I came across a group of Year 7 students and began chatting with them about their first weeks of high school. At the very back of this group was a girl standing on her own, with a mixture of uncertainty and curiosity about the conversations that were taking place. This young lady has come through various primary schools, and she has now begun our journey with us. She greeted me with a handful of books and an enormous smile. I asked her name, and she replied, "My name is Hope." The irony of her name was inescapable, and I need to prove it. Would all of the staff of St Francis who know I'm telling the truth please put your hand up? There they are. I don't tell fibs in front of the bishop. When I quizzed Hope about her new surroundings, she replied, "I am so lucky. This is such a beautiful school. I feel really good here." Those words. I feel really good here. Young Hope is not at all concerned about the future, not yet anyway. And when she does, and she will, she has, in her words, her beautiful school. Hope has found what 26,000 other young people have found. She and all like her has found you and all of those who work with you. How good is that? In terms of education, young people can either be let down by a failure in competence or a failure in character. Neither is acceptable in our schools, and it's not found in our schools. Of this, each of you tonight can be justifiably proud. I thank you for that, our Bishop thanks you for that, and young Hope and all like her thank you also. In 2014, Pope Francis called education an act of love. He went on to say that the educator in a Catholic school must be, first and foremost, competent and qualified, but at the same time someone who is rich in humanity, capable of promoting human and spiritual growth. And at the recent World Youth Day in Panama, the Pope challenged all young people to embrace life. He cast aside the notion of the future and he said to them, "You are not the future. You are the now." And if that is so, and I think it is, then you and I are also the now, with them and for them. And what a great privilege that is. Victor Hugo once said, "The future has many names. For the weak of will, it means impossible. For the fearful, it means the unknown." Our Pope and everybody in this church has a different view, and may it find a place in each of our schools this school year. The future, he says, does have a name, and that name is hope. And so, as part of this community of Catholic educators, how do you see the future? How do you name it? What do you call it? As you see it, name it and call it, so will your students. Emerson once wrote that people only see what they are prepared to see. So when you look into the faces of your young people, what do they see? More importantly, when they look into your face, what do they see? May it be that optimism and spirit spoken of by our Pope when he declares that hope is the virtue of a heart that refuses to lock itself into darkness, that doesn't dwell on the past, that does not simply get by in the present, but is able to see it tomorrow. That's what we celebrate and pray about and work for. And that's why we come together tonight. Tonight we launch a new plan for our system of schools that takes our growing diocese to the year 2022. This plan outlines our responsibilities in faith and in learning and how we intend to deliver on those intentions. The work is founded on the myriad of values espoused by Jesus in the Gospels, but with a focus on 4: integrity, justice, and compassion, and those chosen as our theme for 2019, hope. And so I now invite those who represent that work, which will be brought to life by this plan, to come forward. I ask the Bishop to come forward, and it's with great pride I present to our Bishop our strategic plan for the next 4 years. And could we now acknowledge all that that stands for into the future? I think we have someone that's not going anywhere. So, finally then, can I paraphrase the words of a former colleague and Professor of Education at ACU, Dr. Anne Benjamin, who once said this: "Ours is a noble service. It's entangled in the compromises and ambiguities of the human condition. Yet in the midst of the mess and the complexity, the purpose is achieved and the promise can be honoured. Be very sure. Be very, very sure. The future for our young people does have a name. And that name is hope." I invite you to take a memento of this evening's liturgy, and I thank you for being here tonight, and I offer you every best wish. Thank you very much.